Hey, scrappers and recyclers, it's Shark Scrapper. It's time to do another one of the typewriters that I got from the Typewriter Repair Company. My philosophy is if they're not even going to bother to try to fix it and resell it, then it's scrap. So, this one is a Brother 1988-1992 World Series game. They were a sponsor of those. This is the AX250 electric typewriter. So let's see what we can get going here, other than shred, right? All right, first we're going to get this wire off of here. And my yard takes this kind of wire as number 2. And they want the ends cut off to make it number 2. These will be brass, and these are pretty easy. Here in America, we don't have a lot of the safety features that make it hard to pull the pins out in other places. So, and what we can end up with is the brass and a little bit of copper. And that's easy. I just like to give it a little twist. And then I just cut. And now I've got some number 2 copper and some brass. The only reason I give it a twist is so that the little fine copper strands don't become all flying all over the place. All right, now with a lot of these newer typewriters, what I have discovered is they're not screwed down, they're just tapped in, and that you have to take off this knob. Don't have a whole lot going here, do we? Oh man, yeah, this could be a pretty quick one. Oops, nope, it's like this. Little piece of shred. And boy, this Mylar is really not even good for silver recovery because you can see the tracings, but all of the little push buttons are glued onto it. That makes it somewhat challenging. You can also see the black in there, which is a carbon, and it's not coming apart too easily. So that may not go in with my Mylars. I am keeping some Mylars just because I want to mess around with the silver recovery part. Now here's an interesting question. I don't know if you can see that, but those tracings look gold. I find it very, very hard to believe that they would have used gold tracings. I think that might just be something caused by the coloring. Yeah, you know what I think it is, because in some places they look silver, in some places they look gold. Anyway, let's set that aside for right now. I don't know what I'm going to do with that. It'll sit around until I say, why am I hanging on to that? And then I'll get rid of it. That's usually what happens. Right, this low-grade board is not screwed down anywhere, so we should just pop right out. There we go. And we pull it out all the wire. Now you can throw that in your low-grade boards, or you can take a chisel and try to get these ICs off and still throw it in your low-grade boards. Because low-grade is low-grade, and low-grade doesn't care how low-grade it is. There's a lot of ways to get those chips off. That may not have been the smartest way to get that IC off of there. Hard to say, because I kind of shattered it a bit. I will put all the pieces in with the ICs because there may have been gold bonding wires passing through the ceramic material. You can kind of see the integrated chip embedded in there. I can't see any obvious gold, but that doesn't mean anything. It's still possibly there, and it's just so fine that we can't see it. Let's see if we can twist off these. Yeah, those come off with a twist. That makes that much easier. So again, that's low grade. Oh, you know what? That might be brass. Let's take a quick look. Yeah, there we go. We have a little brass disc there. Low grade IC chips. All right, now this is just the ink. I mean the ribbon. We can get rid of that. Now we have the metal part, which can very clearly go in with the shred. We'll get this number 3. This is very thin wire, insulated copper wire, ICW, so we can get that separated. Let's go ahead and unscrew some screws. See if we can get the metal frame out. That part comes off. There. We do have some motors here. I'm not going to mess with those. I know that some people really like all the motors. Either to sell them as small motors or they like them for projects that they're working on. I've had people say, oh, well, you know, you should try to sell those motors. You know, the problem I run into is I would hang on to a lot of stuff and sell 1 or 2 items. And I'm not saying that there isn't a good value there, that you know, you couldn't sell them. It's just I'm not in a position where I'm going to hang on to a lot of stuff and then, you know, to sell 1 or 2 things. All right, so that's just going to go in with the shred. Yeah, we'll get in here and get this insulated wire cut off of that board. Okay, now that's a low grade board, but that's a nice big chunk of aluminum heatsink there on a MOSFET. So we get in here and get that. Let's see if we can get there this way. That's really weird. That capacitor is blocking my access to the screw. I can't get a straight on approach. So let's do this. Low grade, I mean, it's really just a big capacitor. Now I can get the MOSFET. And we're gonna get that screw there. There we go. Now that's just a nice big chunk of aluminum. Sheet aluminum, if your yard separates out by sheet or cast. Most yards do. You know, it's funny how most yards will separate aluminum on the process that it was used, sheet or cast or whatever, but not the alloy of the aluminum. All right, spaghetti wire, number 3. Of course, a lot of the reason for that is that a lot of yards don't have a tester to be able to test what the grade of aluminum is, what the alloy is, and so frequently cast aluminum is a certain alloy, sheet aluminum is another alloy. So it's kind of a way for them to separate without testing. But you know, it all comes down to their buyers too. It's all how can they sell the material. All right, now we have a power board here, a little tiny piece of low grade. This is all now plastic trash, unfortunately. Yeah, we'll just put that all together. Put that all together. We'll get this wire off of here. Come on, you. Stop it. So a nice big chunky transformer, and you just pop the board off of that. If you are one of the folks that likes to get the copper out of the transformers, and there's a lot of ways to break transformers and motors. I think just about every channel out there that does scrapping has shown you a way to break transformers and motors for the copper. So even I mean, I've done it too. So a lot of ways to break transformers and motors for the copper. I am currently hanging on to them, hoping I can find someone who will buy them as transformers, because my local yard only buys them as shred. So here's part of my challenge, or part of this gig. I mean, this is a very good client. I get a lot of good stuff from him. Frequently a lot of good computers from him, servers, that kind of stuff. But because he also repairs typewriters, I end up with a lot of typewriters, which, you know, really aren't worth a lot, as you saw. And so the question for me is, how many of these do I try to break down? The yard doesn't seem to care if I throw them in with shred, because they know there's a lot of metal inside of it too. So, you know, for a couple of low-grade boards and some wire, I mean, I could just cut the wire off and then throw the rest in shred. It's just, it doesn't seem like it's worth my time and effort to really mess around with that low-grade stuff. But, you know, we'll mess around with some of the unusual ones that we get just because they're unusual and fun. Like this one right here. We'll do a video on that at some point, because that one looks a little bit older and a little bit different. And it might just be fun to look at that. I also had somebody comment on a short recently. They were talking about the most uncomfortable stools or chairs in the world. I got this from that business that is going out of business. And for me, it makes for a nice way to take the weight off of my knees. You all have seen how I have to hobble around sometimes because my knees are shot. And, you know, that's what 25 years in the Navy will do to you. And so by having a place where I can sort of rest my butt and take a little weight off my knees, it really helps out for the day. Well, in the meantime, while I'm deciding what I'm going to do with the rest of these typewriters, why don't you check out the videos that are popping up here on the screen? And the big round one in the middle, that's to help you to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode of Shuck Scrapper. Take care, everybody.